Okay, all right. Welcome this evening. Call to order, and we want to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Glenn Mitchell.
Here.
Ray Curtin.
Here.
Mike McCanny.
And he's asked to be excused. He wouldn't be able to hear tonight.
Ben Armstead.
Here.
Chuck Stoner.
Present.
Leslie Jorgensen.
Here.
Derek Summer.
Here.
All right. Can we have a motion to approve the agenda as proposed, unless there's somebody that wants to change something?
Do you want to excuse Mike?
Oh, yes, please. I will move to exchange Mike McKinney, because he did ask for that. You know, their obligations tonight. Is there a second?
Second to excuse Mike McKinney.
Second by Ray Curtin. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Agenda approval. Anything that needs to be added or removed, or can we get a motion to accept
Motion
it?
that we accept the March 12th agenda as presented.
It's been moved by Ray Curtin. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Chuck Stoner. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Public comment, and this is for agenda items only. I'll mention it, but really the only thing on the agenda is a public hearing. And the same, so really, I don't think there's anything to discuss until we go to the public hearing, which is the next thing. So on to the public hearing. I think we need a motion to open it, the public hearing. Is that correct? So we need a motion from a board member.
Don't we have to bypass the whole public comment first and say it's okay?
I kind of did.
No, we're good? Okay,
Because it's only the things that are here for the public hearing, so. So there's a motion to open the public hearing. Leslie, I believe, said yes?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh. Ben is the first one I heard because he's closer, so Ben said was the second. All right, we open the public hearing. This is for Michael Isaac, application for conditional rezoning from AGRE to SR for parcel ID number, and we'll deal with that later on Fagan Road, just north of Grange Hall Road. So is anybody here want to speak on this issue? If so, we need you up to the microphone. You need to give your name and address. We'll just mention that you have 3 minutes at most to speak, unless we give you special permission. This is just a comment section. We don't necessarily respond to what you say. Anyway, if you have our agenda, it does have that on the back, the different rules. So, welcome.
Hello. My name is John Allen. I live at 4468 Quick Road. I don't have a problem with what the guy is doing. I want a gas line to my house before I sign off. That's it. I want a gas line to my house before I sign off on it. And that's what these guys here also.
Okay.
So, that's all I'm saying.
All right. Thanks, John.
You want to say anything like that?
Anyone else? Yep. Go ahead. Yeah.
My name's Travis Sonny. I live at 4549 Road, and I don't see him as John.
Huh?
Commissioner rezoning.
Okay. Thank you. Yep.
What do you think?
Yeah. This is your chance to actually talk before we discuss the rezoning. So,
You said everybody else is required.
well, you have to be up to the microphone to talk. So I'm sorry.
Everybody else is required 300 feet of road frontage in order to build. Yeah, so that's it too.
All right, John. All right. Any other comments before we move on? I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearings.
Second?
And do we need to read all that into the?
Do I have to read it all in?
Oh, they moved by Chuck and seconded by Derek.
Okay.
Okay, on to approval of the minutes from February 12th of 2025. Couple has noticed that there's when we talked about our lives or whatever, the last commissioner is just nobody. We think that's Mike that says there's no report on the, I don't know what page it is, page 3 of 4. Oh, yeah, there's the last commissioner is
Page
just
3 of
blank
4.
of who that commissioner is, and it starts out with, say,
I meant to review that, okay, so say it was mine,
yes, Mike McKinney was, McKinney said, yeah.
all right, I'll put that on time.
And Derek had something.
Yeah, there's some spots it's my name spelled S-O-M-M-E-R and others S-U. The correct spelling is S-O-M-M-E-R.
Okay, we will correct that as well.
Cool, thank you.
Anything else? Do we have a motion to present it as amended or corrected, I guess?
You're making that motion?
I will make that motion to accept the minutes as presented with the changes, sorry.
I would second that.
Ray Curtin will second that. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
Okay, thank you.
Ray made me do it. Communications, there's none, and nothing came in that we want to discuss, Karen? No old business, so we're on to new business, which is the rezoning that we discussed earlier for the parcel that's on Fagan Road, just north of Grange Hall Road. So probably it's Alexis' time to talk about it. This is our planner.
Just gonna put the parcel on the screen here.
And just for the audience too, you probably should introduce yourself so they know who you are, kind of thing, thanks. Is that the proposed, what they're gonna do on that side?
It's a little tough to read, but. Okay, good evening. Thank you for your patience. My name is Alexis. I am one of Holly's Township planners. I've been working with Mr. Isaac for a couple of months now, looking at his property and talking about what could be done here, and I'll let him speak about what his intentions are in the long term with this, but basically what you have in front of you tonight is a request to rezone this property. Now, in our memo dated March 4th, it's quite lengthy, talking about just the policy behind this, why it needs to be conditional versus a standard rezoning and things like that. So I'm going to talk through that a bit. So what you're looking at up here is one parcel that goes across Fagan. So this is all one singular parcel as it stands today. The area to the west of Fagan, which is about 1.98 acres, is currently already zoned SR, suburban residential. You'll see in the memo that most of the surrounding area is also zoned SR today. However, the area to the east, which is a majority of the rest of the parcel, is currently zoned AGRE, the agricultural residential. So the request here is that this western side get rezoned to SR. Now, what you're looking at with the different parcels, your action to recommend the rezoning will not result in the split of the parcels just yet. But because this is a conditional rezoning, versus a conventional rezoning, we have this concept plan that will be referred to when it comes to the conditional rezoning agreement. This is how the township can hold the property owner to, this is what you're proposing, this is how we approved the rezoning. And so opposed to a conventional rezoning, the applicant has offered several conditions, part of which is that this will be the ultimate layout once the land is split. So what we're looking at here are six parcels, all about 2 acres. The smallest portion is the area to the west of Fagan. That's just sort of how large it is when you subtract the road frontage. And then on the right are the sort of proposed splits. And so what will happen if this commission should approve the rezoning or recommend that the township board approves this, because this will ultimately go to the township board for final approval, is he will have this permission and it will be conditionally rezoned to SR, but to actually pursue the development and the split of the land, he will have to go through the site condominium process. And so tonight, your action, should you approve it, will just be to change the zoning with the conditions that are laid out in the memo offered by the applicant. Any questions so far?
And just to be clear, we can't ask for conditions, he can propose them, and then we can accept them the way he proposed them, is that correct?
Correct, and that is part of state law that for the township to be able to use this conditional rezoning tool, that the applicant, you can't request certain conditions. They've all been offered by him, and like I said, we've been going back and forth for many months about what is possible with the SR zoning, what the master plan says, and we've sort of come to this conclusion of layout, which was offered by the applicant.
And again, the audience, just to respond to the audience that mentioned things that was about a gas line, we can't make that conditional, is that correct?
I don't believe so. And what I'll do actually is to kind of back up, is to share the conditions that have been offered,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe we can go from there.
Okay.
So,
Karen, did you want to make a comment at this point?
I do want to make a comment, because that is something, those kind of conditions we can't do because it goes through consumers. There is a mechanism to petition consumers to provide gas, and you can get, so if you pass a petition and went all down to all your neighbors, that there's a very good possibility, it's a small percent of the neighborhood, that they require to begin the hookup. And they have payment plans over a certain amount of years. So I think I might have that direct person, so if you get with me, I can help you manage the request for that.
I just want to make sure we address their issue, so.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead then, yeah, please.
So to speak about the conditions that have been offered with the rezoning, both displayed on the site plan, but also this is in written form, that the future lots will be developed at a minimum of 1.5 acres. This is the minimum lot size for the SR district. That the lots will be developed as single-family detached dwellings with a minimum dwelling size of 1,200 square feet. And then that the existing vegetation along property lines will be preserved as shown on the concept plan, with a minimum of 3.04 acres preserved through an environmental conservation easement. So I know it's a bit difficult for the audience to see because of the brick, but the hatching on here, the little lines, it's not going to show my mouse up there, but it basically runs along the frontage of the property line, covering a good portion of the existing wood stand to the south as well as to the north. The parcel in particular to the north, the easement being proposed follows exactly the tree line as it stands today. And it also, you'll see on the parcel to the west that it has the same, I believe it's, let's see, it's the same consistent width throughout. So if you take the 33-foot right-of-way, plus you'll see a 42, it's kind of hard to see, so it's about 70 feet wide all along. And by offering this condition, that area will be legally required to remain environmentally untouched. So they won't be able to develop in those areas. They'll of course need to have some driveway access, but other than that, those areas will remain natural. This is something that we know that is a major priority for the township, is preserving the natural features. So we thought that this fit very well with the township's overall goals of the master plan.
And east of this property is really state land, so it wouldn't be developed any further than that.
And so, to get into the rezoning analysis, I just want to mention that in many other communities, they will have their own local rezoning ordinance. At this time, Holly does not, so we're processing through this application through state law. But what that means is that the questions that I've provided in this letter are just purely for consideration. So these aren't part of Holly's local code. In other communities, it will have 5 standards right in the regulation that they have to meet to be able to approve the rezoning. But in this case, Holly doesn't have that codified, but these are questions that have been used to analyze rezoning requests in Holly in the past. And so, you know, it talks about things like, is this consistent with our master plan? The number 1 in your memo, has the applicant demonstrated conditions that have significantly changed since the master plan was developed if it does not support the master plan? But what we found is that with the proposal based on the conditions offered, that it does generally support the master plan. One thing to note is that I pulled out page 2 of the memo, the actual future land use map, and then the zoning plan for that area. So I guess to just back up, the reason we're looking at the master plan is because it shows for every property in the township what we'd like to see it become in 5, 10, 15 years. So as things like rezonings come up, it's typical to look at your master plan and make sure that it aligns. So the entire parcel is classified as the low density residential for the master plan categories. And these categories will eventually become your new zoning districts. So we're working on getting started on the zoning update, the zoning ordinance update. Because we just wrapped up the master plan update last summer, the next natural step is to make sure that your zoning ordinance aligns. But this request came in during a time where they don't quite align just yet. We're still working on updating the zoning ordinance. So what we look at is the zoning plan to say, well, for our existing zoning districts, what is the correlating future land use category? And interestingly, the SR zoning district is actually not listed directly in the zoning plan. That was something that we thought that could, maybe cause some confusion, but what is listed for this same future land use category is the rural estate district. Now, the rural estate and the SR district, in terms of permitted and special uses, are in the same category. So, in the ordinance, the only difference between these 2 districts are dimensional standards. So, rural estate and SR have all of the same regulations when it comes to the types of uses that we can see in these districts and that are allowed. And so all of this is to say that we believe that the master plan supports this request. Are there any questions on that before I keep going?
No, good.
And so to talk a little bit about why the 1.5 acre minimum versus something else. So I know there was a comment about road frontage requirements, and this gentleman was correct that is required for the existing AGR rezoning. But in the SR district, which is what he is requesting, it's only 150 feet. So that's just to speak on the lot width. And this concept plan is designed with the SR standards in mind. So if you look at page 2, we've got the schedule of regulations. That 1.5 acre minimum, that's where we took that from. Is that, we see that it aligns with the zoning that he's requesting. And then the last thing, I'm happy to go through the rezoning analysis or just answer questions, whatever you guys are kind of needing to help make your decision. But the last thing I wanted to mention is that in terms of density, why are we looking at 6 parcels versus more or less? Obviously the parcels ended up larger than 1.5 acre minimums, but that density, we're taking the cue from the master plan. So looking back again at page 2 for the low density residential, this is for the future zoning district that has yet to become codified. We've got for standard development just 1 acre or 1 unit per 5 acres. So with that density on this property, you would only get about 3 parcels. But we knew that the applicant had come to us and asked, hey, we want to build sort of a family homestead, we want to get more than just 3 dwelling units. Is that possible? And what we have in the ordinance already today is what's called the cluster housing option. And this is where the environmental conservation comes in. With the cluster housing option, they can get additional density in return for conservation. That cluster housing option is sort of separate from what we're doing here today. This is just the rezoning, but that's where the density and the environmental conservation that's where the idea came from. And so again, all of this is to say that this is how this area of the township is being planned for in the future. It's a bit clunky with things not quite lining up because we're in the middle of starting a zoning ordinance update. And so that's why we came to needing it to be a conditional rezoning, and this is so complicated. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and if you want to hear from the applicant.
Yep, Mike Isaac, want to speak for a minute? Kind of
Sure.
let us know what you're planning, I guess.
All right.
And you still should give your name and your address. So
Hey everybody, Michael Isaac, at the address is 14507 Bacon Road. I've got some friends, and my brother is over in Chicago right now, and just kind of like-minded, wanna get some animals and have like a little bit of land be a farm area, and so that's kind of the main reason behind this. I'm looking at the top portion is I'm gonna retain and build out there, and then my brother and a couple friends are gonna be coming in and getting some of the other pieces, and
Okay, board have any questions? And there was a house, I think it's the second parcel, up a long time ago. Mr. Allen would know that. That was grandfather, right? Great grandfather, yes.
Yeah.
And his last name was Mitchell, but we're not related.
That's what I was saying, I didn't think you were really.
No, but that was the Levi Mitchell farmstead over there, so that was farm. There was some buildings there, but I think they've been gone for many years now, so gone
So-
for many years.
In saving all the green stuff, did you actually go and perk these lots at all yet to see if they perk?
not yet. That would be the next step.
So you want to do that before you actually went too far with this, right? I mean,
Yeah,
Open
yeah,
County's not
the-
real friendly.
The rezoning is kind of the first step. and
Yeah, I
once,
just-
once we get that, then the first and the water.
Right.
Okay. questions that you have. Thank you, Michael.
Good, thank you.
Alexis, anything more you want to follow up with that? Or?
Other things that I wanted to mention is that, like Michael said, this is just the first step in this process. For him to even be able to apply for a site condo or a site plan review or further develop this, he needs to get this rezoned. And so that is to say that there may be, through the development process, minor changes, maybe depending on where they can find water, the lot lines shift a bit, but for the most part, this is what will eventually be as the lot lines. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention is that we have talked a lot about housing in Holly. We know that there's a demand for folks to come and live here, and that's just another piece of the master plan that this further supports. And not only that, but it's on at least some good-sized properties, right? So we know that density has been a concern, but we thought that this fit with the surrounding character in terms of the larger lots and things like that. So.
And it's just off of paved road too, so major road, so it's not.
Right.
Questions?
So I have a question. When I read this, did I understand correctly that so it'll help be back before us again before this is over, after this meeting? If this is approved, there's still, so if he comes back next time and there's 20 little boxes on here instead of 6, right?
Yes, we
We'll remember,
even
right?
Bring it to you at that point.
Right.
So, you know, I think Michael initially reached out back in August. So we've been going back and forth, getting it to the point where we knew that it was something that fit with everything. And again, even though there may be minor changes to the final results, he has offered the condition that there will be no more than 6 lots. So by your actual request tonight is to make a recommendation that the township board have the final approval on this. That's because it's technically a code change that is part of your local code. So if you, when you go to make a motion tonight, it will be to make a recommendation to approve. Then it will go to township board. If they go to approve it, that will just be to rezone it. The lot will still be whole as it is. I think it's about 16 or so acres. At that point, then the applicant would have to go and continue to develop these drawings, go through a site plan and site condo process. At that point, it would come back to you.
And so really, if we approve of this, it's the general idea, but not necessarily exactly where the lots are, because it's conditional on 1.5 acres minimum, correct? Other than that, it could move a little bit from what you're saying, but that this is the idea that he has to begin with. Is correct.
Yes, but this concept plan will also be filed with the conditional rezoning agreement. So it's both the written conditions of 6 parcels and the other couple of things, but this will also be part of that. So if it turns into something where it's, well, we want 3 tiny little parcels on one little area of it and one huge, that would be parting too much from this concept.
So in your recommendation here, how we do this, it doesn't say anything about being conditional on that though. Shouldn't that word conditional be in that?
That's what I was kind of getting to. This is kind of general. And again, I think that's the main thing, but should we have some of those
Right.
conditions
Well,
he's agreeing to now? in the
Over here it
word?
says layout for conditional, but where she's got it worded here, the recommended, we make the motion, there's nothing about being, shouldn't that say conditional in the recommendation?
I think that, yes, so where it says, I move to recommend approval of the rezoning, I would add conditional before rezoning, but then when it gets to based on the findings of fact, township planner report, that's this. And this
Okay.
includes those
Okay.
conditions, and again, once the township board goes to approve it, there will actually be an agreement drawn up with the property owner and
questions, Chuck, or anything you want to comment on before we? Ray,
No.
anything else?
I think that was a good point, just making sure we have the conditional, and we make
Yeah.
that, make that motion.
Anyone else, Ray? Derek? Jen? Leslie?
I'm good.
Okay. So at this point, the board needs to make a decision. I believe I need a motion.
Do we need to add the conditional part first? or the motion?
Well, it will just be part, because you're supposed to read the whole thing here along with that. You'll just put conditional on the rezoning, correct?
Other side of that. I'm gonna do it.
To get it started, I will make the motion that we approve for Michael Isaac application for conditional rezoning from AGRE to SR, minimum 1.5 acres for parcel ID number 01-22-476-007 on Fagan Road, just north of Grange Hall Road, Holly, Michigan 48442, and is conditional on rezoning. Is there a second?
I second that.
Second by
Well,
Ben.
I think you have to put the, based on the finding facts of this planner report dated today too. That way it has all this stuff in it.
And that you recommend the township board.
Okay. and
Yeah.
but
I'm not
adding
trying to
what
correct
Ray
you.
says.
Yeah, yeah. you
We're
know,
gonna add the
Based
parts
on
that,
the
yeah.
township planner report, or based on the finding the fact of the township planner report dated March 4th, 2024.
And conditional on the township board actually making final approval.
Correct. Yeah, you're presenting
Okay.
to the township board.
Is that good enough to read in the record?
We're gonna let Glenn gets credit for that.
Nobody else would. And
I
Ben
still
agrees to that, okay? Now that we can discuss this further, is there anything else we want to discuss further? Ben supported, yes.
Ben supported.
I had to get everybody's,
Is this a voice vote, or I think we can just do voice vote, correct? Voice vote, yeah. Those in favor of approving this, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passed. On to reports. Anything we want to report on? We're going to embarrass Leslie, because last month we went through and said what all of us kind of were doing and who we were a little bit. So this
Okay.
is a chance for you to shine tonight.
Gosh, I missed it. I don't know what y'all
Just
talked
maybe
about.
what you, yep.
You'll have to relay once minute.
Who are you?
Who am I? Good question, Chuck. Who am I? I am Leslie Jorgensen. I am longtime Holly resident, third generation. I'm a realtor here in Holly. Raised 2 kids. They've graduated, married, college.
You want to comment on, or something that's happening that we should, as a board, know about? All right, public comment. This is your chance again to come up and discuss anything you want. Again, the 3-minute limit, but you just need to say your name and your address. Anybody? Well, that's a comment, I guess.
That person